24 inches by this point, Mike.
Yes, and now the wettest month on record, topping the Hurricane Floyd month 19 years ago, September 1999. They've had another 5.5, almost 5.5 inches since midnight. But finally, look at the radar. We're getting a nice break now. There are a couple cells heading our way. They're moving northwest at about 25 miles an hour. So we may get some occasional downpours, but the radar looks a whole lot better than it did over the past 3 days. It's been quite the rainfall event. And the wind damage from those gusts that were clocked at 105 miles an hour, these big oak trees, live oak. Now, I haven't seen a root ball like this since I covered that derecho. Remember the big derecho back in June 30th of 2012 that took down trees and power to millions from the Ohio Valley all the way into Washington? Well, this is a pretty good root ball. It's been blown over across the road, so they're going to have to do a lot of chainsawing. We've got the local folks out here with smaller chainsaws, but this is heavy-duty stuff. Come back out here. We've got another tree blocking the street here. Got another crew down there. And there's a lady in her car with her children, and it fell in her car. She's fine, but she's been out there with her car running so she can charge her phone. Rainfall totals over 2 feet. The wettest tropical cyclone on record. Still to be officially confirmed in the state of North Carolina. And as far as power outages go, just checking, South Carolina now just over 46,000 customers. That's come down from last night. It was about 80,000. Here in North Carolina, still about 674,000 customers without power. So you figure that's easily over 1 million people, and that's down from about 800, but not a big change since last night. Good thing today, the wind has really backed off, a lot less rainfall. But let me show you what they were doing last night in those rain bands, these power crews. Thank goodness for them. Not only from Duke Energy, but other crews have come in, including Florida Power from down south. So they've been around the area. You can see here, they're up on the bucket truck. They're using the chainsaw and just pouring rain. It's also pouring rain over in Lumberton, North Carolina. Tevin, I know I-40 is closed between here and I-95 because there's so many breaches. What's the status on I-95 because you're just off there in Lumberton? We are back in historic downtown Wilmington, North Carolina on the throes and the aftermath from Hurricane Florence. The rain is just about over with, maybe a few heavier showers moving through today, but all in all, historic. Now wettest month on record. We set 2 daily records, now have 3 daily records, Friday, Saturday, and today. Friday and Saturday, we ended up with about 17 inches of rain. So now we've had over 2 feet of rain here in Wilmington, North Carolina, but it is finally tapering off. But look at this, trees down this whole street here, Ann Street. We've got a tree up there. We've got 2 trees down here. And tree on the car, that's the owner of the car. They're fine. They were not in the car. What they've been doing is charging their phones by turning the car on. The car still works. We're going to try to talk to her sometime this afternoon. Beautiful homes down here. Now it's just a matter of getting all these trees cleaned up and getting the power back on. We just had a spokesman from Duke Energy on. He said it could take up to 2 weeks in some areas, maybe even a little bit longer. Some areas are still submerged. Now the water is beginning to back off here, and they're trying to get the power on to the main central areas, like where there are restaurants and hotels, get the services back up. And as I mentioned earlier, a couple of major food chains, Lowe's and Harris Teeter, are open over on the northeast side of Wilmington. Let's go back to Lumberton, Lumberton, North Carolina. And Tevin, I was there 2 years ago for Hurricane Matthew, and I was actually out on I-95 doing live shots because nobody could go anywhere. They were trying to get back. They had evacuated out of Florida and Georgia. Today, though, they're detouring everybody basically around the area, and some people coming from way up north or way down south have to go into West Virginia and Virginia.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Mike, I believe that. On a lot of rain right now, and we get to Mike Seidel for that.
Okay, the rain is back here in downtown Wilmington. It's not going to last long. Let's go to the radar first, and we'll find out what's going on with the evacuations in Fayetteville. You can see the shower coming through here. Don't see any lightning right now, and there's some more showers off the coast. Looks like most of those are going to miss most of Wilmington and certainly off to the east side of town. Now the rain has backed off, so it's a whole lot better, trust me, than today than yesterday and the past 3-4 days. We've had over 2 feet of rain. Now their biggest rainfall event on record in the city of Wilmington. What a September on record. The record's just being shattered. Most of those with Floyd back in 1999. Let's bring Kevin Arata in. He's on the phone. He's the communications director with the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us today. We appreciate the opportunity to get the word out that it is dangerous down here, and we want people to stay inside if they're safe or to move to high ground if they're in an area where they feel threatened and potentially flooded.
What can you tell us about the evacuations going on right now along the New River
Sure.
and also the Little River and the Cape Fear River?
Absolutely. I wanted to make it clear that the entire area is not under evacuation. Exactly as you said, it's the Little River and the Cape Fear River. Those are two main rivers that we've got here in and around the city and the county. And we issued a mandatory evacuation order yesterday within 1 mile to either side of that river, as well as publishing information for folks that they needed to get out by 3 p.m. today. That's moving along. We've had our police and fire and others go out and personally notify the majority of those residents, either personally by knocking on doors or going down streets with fire engines, police cars, bullhorns, and making sure they're aware they need to get out.
And Kevin, you know that the forecast is the Cape Fear is going to top out just over 3 feet higher than it did 2 years ago. So you pretty much have a good idea who's going to be impacted again directly.
We do, and the good news is people here have memory of that. You know, this happened with us for Hurricane Matthew just under 2 years ago, almost to a month, so in October of 2015. So most people remember that, and we hope that they heed the warnings. I think they will. But I was down on the Cape Fear River today doing another interview with y'all, as a matter of fact, and watched it rise from yesterday to today. And when I was talking with Alex down there for the Weather Channel today, it's rising at about a foot an hour. So it is coming up quick. It was at about 35 feet when I left. It'll be at 50-some-odd feet by tomorrow, and it's supposed to crest tomorrow, and so or Tuesday, rather. So it's coming up quickly, and as you said, 3 feet higher than Matthew. So this is not something to take lightly. And we certainly don't want people to be complacent about it.
Okay, Kevin Orlando, thanks for joining us in the update there. The evacuation's continuing along the Little River and the Cape Fear River, as he mentioned. And I told you it's going to be worse than it was 2 years ago with more rain coming down here. Dr. Navarro, a lot of rain too inland. But right now, at least just a minute ago, there are no current tornado warnings, although there's a tornado watch here until 5 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. We don't currently have tornado warnings, but
Right now, we want to get to Wilmington, North Carolina, where our Mike Seidel is tracking the remnants of Florence. Mike?
Hey, yes, and we've got trees down across the city. We're in the historic part of Wilmington. Some of these houses, many of these houses built in the 1800s. Nice Queen Anne right there. Ready to move in, I'm sure. And we've got this tree down on this vehicle, and we've got the owner of the vehicle. She is charging her phone in the car, but she's okay. Everybody's fine. They weren't in the car, luckily, when the tree came down during the height of the storm. Remember, the eye wall came right through here just after sunrise on Friday morning with wind gusts to 105 miles an hour. So trees blocking the neighborhood streets, water blocking major interstates in North Carolina. We've got Steve Abbott on the phone from the North Carolina DOT. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us. First off, let's touch base on I-40 and I-95, because that affects certainly I-95, a lot of through traffic.
Well, I-40 remains closed in several locations, going from I-95 down towards where you are in Wilmington. And I-95 has a longer stretch shut down from about I-40 and mostly to the South Carolina border, and then maybe in some parts beyond there. So both are not places that you want to be driving.
And by far, there are many other roads that are closed, at least till further notice, because of the rising waters. And you're urging everybody just to stay put if they can.
Exactly. At last count, there were well over 600 roads closed in the state, and most of them are down in that southeastern section of the state. And because the situation, as you guys have been mentioning, water is still rising. Roads that are open now could be closed in 15 minutes. We need people to stay in place. For the roads that are open, we need those to be used by our crews, first responders, power crews, the people that are going to help out the people that are trapped down there.
Okay, Steve Abbott, thanks for joining us from the DOT for North Carolina. Again, I-40, he said shut down in several spots, but basically trying to get from Wilmington up to I-95 around Benson is not going to be very easy. And I-95, if you're trying to get, say, from New Jersey down to Atlanta or to Florida, it's going to be a long, tenuous, circuitous route. So remember, pack your patience or if you can, put off your trip. Some good news as far as power goes. When we came on the air about an hour ago, we had about 674,000 customers without power in North Carolina, and right now we're down to 641,000. So just over 30,000 customers have their power back on. Duke Energy doing the best they can under these conditions with all the trees down, and in some areas they can't even do anything because of the water surrounding some of the substations. Tevin Wooten is back with us from Lumberton as the Lumber River continues to rise. Expected, Kevin, to crest about where it did in Matthew 2 years ago. So that kind of gives folks an idea of where the water is going to end up in a couple of days. Welcome back to Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. It's Tropical Depression Florence. The wind has gone away, but the rain is just pounding many areas. We've got flash flood emergencies, including Charlotte. Here in Wilmington, we're getting some sporadic heavy downpours, nothing like yesterday, not the persistence, and not with a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust. Let's bring in Craig Newkirk, who is a longtime resident of the historic area here in Wilmington with the cobblestones and the large trees, older than both of us combined, down. You've been through many, many hurricanes, and how does this rank with Floyd and Bertha and Fran and the others?
Well, honestly, Mike, going into this storm, I thought it would be a nothing burger, but look at this. This is potentially the worst we've seen since Hazel.
As far as tree damage?
As far as tree damage and infrastructure as well.
And what have you been doing today to try to do some catch-up, cleaning up?
Well, just trying to clear the sidewalks and help start get some debris to the road, and just a lot of chainsawing and hauling.
What about this big tree? Did it wake you up? Did you see it come down on Friday morning when the eye wall came through?
Well, no, we were down in the basement. My mom's house is the yellow place right over here on the right, and we didn't hear anything because we were down in the basement. Her house is one of the few places in town that has a basement, so we were down in the basement and didn't hear it.
That's a great place to be, and then you came up and went, whoa.
Honestly, my daughter Samantha walked out the front door the next morning, and I heard her give a slight little scream, and I was like, what the world's going on? I walked out, and this one was down, and then we went back and didn't pay much attention. We came back later, and there was a couple more down the street.
And what is the status of this? I've seen this before with severe weather, derecho, straight line winds. This is a lot of work. You just can't use your basic home chainsaw.
No, me and my little chainsaw aren't going to tackle this one, but the city will come along and get this.
Yeah, and power is going to be out for a while.
Yeah, it is going to be out for a while. As you can see, a lot of the main lines. Here's a main line right here.
There it is, yeah.
And out in my neighborhood, out near Wrightsville Beach, Middle Sound, that area is their whole infrastructure's down. The road's washed away.
Well, at least the grocery store, you said you were able to get to Harris Teeter, so at least the grocery stores have opened up.
Yeah, there's, of course, there won't be now, but the Harris Teeter at Wrightsville Beach was open earlier. And but there were some customers in there trying to get some supplies.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us.
Mike, hey, real quick, let me thank the Weather Channel for your service. You guys do an incredible service to our community. I want to thank you guys.
Well, we very much appreciate it, and our crew wants to thank you for letting us use the facilities.
You're welcome, mate. Thank you.
Okay. And the rain just keeps going on here in Wilmington. Already over 2 feet of rain, wettest September on record, wettest tropical cyclone on record in North Carolina, not here. Also, what else have they broken? They've broken all these records. Most of these are with Floyd back in 1999. But as you just heard Craig say, the damage here tops anything he's seen. Certainly with these trees, you can look at that tree alone, how old that tree is. Let's go to Tevin Wooten. He is up in Lumberton, where they're watching the Lumber River. It's already in major flood stage, Tevin, and now we await the crest, but the impacts are going to be exactly the same as 2 years ago with Matthew, based on the forecast, crest, and the level. And power, too, is still out for hundreds of thousands, but improvement here in the state of North Carolina. We came on the air about 2 hours ago with 674,000 customers out, now 629, so we're down about 46,000 customers are back on. So they're making steady progress. There are some areas it's going to take a while, maybe up to 2 weeks because of all the tree damage, like right here on Ann Street in beautiful, historic Wilmington. Some of these houses were built back in the 1800s. Let's bring in Betsy Robertson from the Red Cross, American Red Cross, on her way to the area, but rerouted because of the flooded interstates, including I-95 and I-40. Betsy, where are you? Where are you headed, and what's your plan?
Well, right now I'm headed back to Red Cross headquarters in Durham, North Carolina. We left there around noon today, attempting to make it to Jacksonville. We were detoured a couple of times, ended up running into a road that had a river, rapid river, running across it, and decided to turn around, not knowing where we would find gas and not wanting to be stuck on the road in the dark. So right now, I'm northbound on Interstate 40, passing through an area called Benson.
Okay, well, that's right by I-95, and part of that's closed, too, so through traffic is a mess.
That's right.
What's your plan now, and what about the rest of the troops from the Red Cross? Have they already been able to fan out, or were they staged ahead of time, the local chapters in the area? I'm sure some of them are now out helping these residents.
We have lots of 2,300 Red Cross workers that, as you say, are fanned out through the area. Many of them were pre-positioned prior to the heavy rainfall, and they're doing their best to deliver services in all of the areas where we have our shelters throughout the Carolinas. It's been tough to travel, I'll be honest, and we just released some wind restrictions that we have on some of our bigger vehicles that are able to transport supplies just yesterday, but we're still running into travel, obviously the road closures and things that are making that movement difficult for people and materials. So it's really critical that the shelters that are already established in these communities work closely with the organizations that are already there, and in some cases the businesses. I spoke to a shelter worker in Hampstead, North Carolina, just a little bit ago, and she was excited to tell us that a local chef from the area was coming in to prepare meals for her shelter residents. It was going to be an exciting night for them, and that's just an example of how the local communities can support us in our effort to try to make these shelter stays, with them now extending on multiple days and nights now, to try to make them as comfortable as possible.
Indeed, because some of these rivers are not going to crest until at least the middle or latter part of the week before they come down and folks can get out of the shelters. Betsy Robertson from the American Red Cross, thanks. Best of luck getting around the Carolinas for not only you, but for anybody. If you're traveling through the area, check with your Google Map, your Waze, because parts of I-95 are shut down. They will be shut down for at least a couple more days, if not longer. I-40 between here and I-95 is primarily shut down because there's several spots that have been breached by floodwater. So for all intents and purposes, it's closed. And there are many secondary roads and U.S. highways that are closed. Jim Cantori was trying to get to Lumberton, South Carolina, and I don't think he went very far. He's in Leland, a suburb of Wilmington. Jim, what do you got for us, and what's going on out there in the suburbs as far as water?
No, we're literally surrounded by water, Mike.
All right. Wilmington, North Carolina has been an area that's been hard hit by Tropical Storm Florence. Tremendous amounts of rainfall. Mike Seidel, it is their wettest year on record at this point in Wilmington due to the rainfall from Florence.
Yes, about 87 inches last check, but we just had another downpour. And conceivably, with over 3 months left, they could crack 100 inches of rain here in Wilmington. Let's bring in the mayor, Bill Saffo. Bill's had a busy week preparing for Florence and now dealing with the aftermath. You've been here all your life, and how does this rank with Floyd, Bertha, Fran, all the storms?
This is probably the worst I've ever seen as far as the damage that we have been able to assess around the city. It's widespread, and now we're dealing with a lot of flooding. Last night, we just got inundated with calls for first responders. We had almost 460 rescues last night, and just the floodwaters came in on people, and with almost 25, 26 inches, it's just been tough to deal with.
Yeah, we were driving through some of that last night around 6, 7 o'clock, and it was just pounding.
Yeah.
And then we had the flash flood warnings, still one out right now. And you look behind us at these trees that have been here for years, probably longer than some of these historic homes, and you think to yourself what they've seen weather-wise, and as you just mentioned, the worst tree damage you've seen.
It is, and it's a shame because this is such a beautiful historic old city here on the Carolina coast, and to lose these beautiful oak trees is it's heartbreaking. But we'll get through it. We'll replant and move forward. But this has been a tough one, Mike. It kind of came in, was looking at a 4, came in as a 1. Everybody thought the wind wasn't going to be as bad, but did a lot of damage. And then now we're dealing with this rain event that's just dumping a tremendous amount of water on us and causing a tremendous amount of other problems for us. And as you know, and I wanted to make sure and the viewers knew, all of the roads coming into the city of Wilmington are impassable. I've just left with the Highway Patrol, just met with them. So I know a lot of people were trying to get back to Wilmington to check on their houses. They had evacuated. And what we're asking those residents to do is please check with the Highway Patrol before you get here. The river is due to crest, I think, tomorrow or Tuesday at about 26 feet. And until that happens, those levels are going to be high, and a lot of those roadways are going to be blocked.
My coworker, Stephanie Abrams, was able to sneak out this morning down towards Myrtle Beach, but I think she got out in the nick of time because it's either goes south or a lot of folks it's I-40, and that's shut down in so many spots. Theoretically, it's just closed.
It is, and that's what. So, and we're also having to deal with this massive amount of cleanup. We've got a lot of crews on the ground cleaning the roadways. Obviously, our first priority are the major roadways, so we can get our first responders to and from hospitals if need be. Then the second thing is getting into the neighborhoods and cleaning those up. And then, of course, with all the down power lines and Duke Power getting in here, we're also coming across live wires, and we're asking Duke to come in there, of course, disengage the wire there before we can get in there and clean out the roadway. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but you know, we'll get through it.
One final question. The curfew, does that continue again tonight from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.? We
moved it from 8 to 6 o'clock a.m., from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we have extended the curfew hour from 10 to
back to
8.
Okay. Mayor Bill Saffo, good luck. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
As he said, the worst he's ever seen, certainly damage-wise here in this historic area and across the city of Wilmington, North Carolina. Flooding continues. We've got flash flood emergencies. We've got crews fanned out along 95. We'll check in with some of them coming up next on the Weather Channel.
To Wilmington, North Carolina, where our Mike Seidel is also tracking an inland flood threat from Florence.
Here we are, downtown Wilmington, the historic area, and look at these huge, beautiful oak trees that have come down. And we just talked to the mayor. He said this is the worst he's seen. He's been here all of his life. Worse than Floyd, worse than Fran, Bertha, all those as far as damage goes. I want to show you what's going on with this car. Now, right off the top, nobody was in the car when the tree came down during the height of the storm. That was the eye wall that came in Friday morning. But I've talked to the owners of the car, and what they're doing, they're pitching in, and they're charging the phones from all their neighbors. And look at this. They've got an inverter here off the Honda Fit battery. And look, they've got 1, 2, 3, looks like about 4 phones, an iPad or a mini iPad. So they are really chipping in. You've got to do this. The car is stuck here under this limb. And again, that's going to be part of the problem with getting the power back on. They first have to get these big trees out of the way and get the line back up. Now, the main line was taken down with this tree down the road here. So here on Ann Street, it's quite a disaster. These big, massive trees, not able to handle 105-mile-an-hour wind gusts here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Power, though, is coming back on statewide. 55 to 60,000 customers are back on in just the past 2.5 hours. We'll continue our Florence coverage live across the Carolinas. The inland flood threat continues into at least the middle of next week. Parts of I-95 are shut down for travel.
We want to get north of I-95 right now to Mike Seidel, who is in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And we have found something we have not seen in quite a while. Look up there. Yes, indeed, the sun is now breaking through the overcast here in Wilmington. We're not completely done with the rainfall. There's still some heavy downpours nearby, rain rotating off the Atlantic. But by and large, probably 95, 98% of the rain is over with. Thank goodness we have set all kinds of records. Wettest event going back to 2010. There was a system that dropped over 19 inches. It was not tropical per se. And then Floyd, 19 years ago. That was extremely wet. In fact, that was the wettest month on record, that September 1999, until this month. Right now, we're at 24 inches and counting. I'm going to go check the Wilmington ASOS measurement, see how much rain we picked up with that downpour about an hour and a half ago. So now the cleanup is underway, and it's a real mess. The mayor says the worst he's seen. He's been here all of his life as far as tree damage. And look at this. These big old oak trees. This is a laurel oak. And you know this guy has been around for quite a while and has seen a lot of weather. So this one came down More trees have come down all through historic Wilmington and around the area. The other issue, too, is the flooding. Now that the rainfall is going away, the flash flooding should wind down. We have another flash flood warning for this area, New Hanover County. That continues until 9:30 this evening. That could be the last flash flood warning tied in to Florence. But the rivers have to come down. That's why we've got our crews stand out inland for the next couple of days. So the sun breaks through the overcast. Now the power situation. They're working on the main areas, the commerce areas, where you have stores, grocery stores, banks, hotels, places like that. Obviously, these areas are going to take longer because they've got to get these huge trees out of here. You just can't use your basic Home Depot chainsaw. So with that in mind, we know that grocery stores have reopened so people are able to get in and at least get food and supplies, even if they can't use their stove. Now, some of these folks have gas cooking, so that helps out in a big way. As far as power outages go, I mentioned a little while ago, we got here at 1 p.m. Eastern, and there was about 675,000 customers without power in North Carolina, and that number is now decreased by about 50,000 plus customers. So Duke Energy is making inroads. Slowly but surely. They were well staged. They also had crews in from other states, including Florida Power, which came up before Florence hit. The worst of it rolling through here with that 105-mile-an-hour wind gust, the second highest on record in Wilmington on Friday morning. So a long way to go. It's going to take weeks to get these areas back up and running with the power and everything else. But at least Florence has moved out and moving quicker now. Yesterday moving, 2-3 miles an hour, now up over 10 miles an hour and pulling away. But the rainfall continues in the interior areas. We will keep you updated here on the Weather Channel. We will now go back to Atlanta.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. And you were just mentioning the people without power. And again, we want to talk about the numbers here.
We are back in historic Wilmington. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel with Florence coverage continuing. Big trees down here on Ann Street all across the area. The mayor told us earlier the worst damage he's seen from any hurricane or tropical storm. He's been here all of his life. He's been through Floyd and Fran. Rainfall has backed off. Now, we had another squall come through here. You may have seen us in the middle of that. Another 92/100ths of an inch, almost another inch of rain fell a couple of hours ago in 2 hours. So that now puts us up over 25 inches for the storm. It's the wettest September on record. We've already set the wettest tropical cyclone on record in North Carolina, besting Floyd. So a lot of these records go back to Floyd. More trees looking down Ann Street. The power is out, but the power companies are making a big improvement. We got on the air about 3.5 hours ago, almost 4 hours ago, and statewide there was about 675,000 customers without power. Now that's down to about 605,000. So they've gotten about 70,000 customers back online statewide. Now this is all the power companies. Most of the residents in the state are with Duke Energy. Back up to Lumberton, North Carolina, where we anxiously await, unfortunately, another crest of the river, the Lumber River, which is going to crest about where it did with Matthew. Let's check in now with Tevin Wooten. Tevin?